Similar process, okay? So I'm going to be frying this for some time, okay, until the onions have softened. Let me use that word for you, okay? Until onions, then I add my spices, okay? So all the spices I showed you beforehand, I'm going to chuck it in this thing, okay? And it's going to fry for some time. So as it fries, my hope is that it releases very beautiful, fragrant smell, okay, and or aroma, yes, and then also it releases some oil into the concoction I'm frying over there. I don't know what to call it. Okay, then I go in with my tomatoes, okay? So I'm going to stir it and then I'll cover it for it to boil. So now we're going to let it boil. I'm not saying fry, okay? I'm not saying fry because tomatoes has got juices, a lot of juices, and it's going to fry at some point, but it will boil first, and then the water will evaporate before it starts frying. Yes, okay, so that's how it's going to go. So I've added a can of cherry tomatoes, okay? So what this is going to do for me, right, is going to add some sweetness, and also is going to prevent me from using tomato puree. I didn't want to use tomato puree, but you don't have any canned tomatoes, you can use tomato puree, but I didn't want to use it, all right? So it's finished cooking and now it's frying. So it's fried, so it was on the fire for up to 30 minutes, okay? That was when I was happy with it. So in the meantime, our meat is coming along nicely. So I've gone in and then I've taken it out to turn it all over so that the other side will also bake, grill, roast, whatever it's called. So yes, so my tomato concoction is finished. It has cooled down. What I will recommend is let it cool down completely before blending, right? But if you don't have the time, okay, then you can blend it immediately, okay? And yes, remember that when you're using a glass blender, and you blend it immediately, make sure you don't rinse your blender jack with cold water, otherwise it will crack. Trust me, I'm talking from experience. Okay, so it's nicely blended. I've blended everything, right, and I've poured it in a bowl and set it aside. So I have a few more ingredients to show you. So I have curry powder, vegetable bouillon, and some turmeric powder. These are the other spices I'm going to add, and not forgetting my nutmeg. So I always add nutmeg. And I also have my red pepper paste, okay? I'm going to bring you this recipe, but it wouldn't be on this channel, to be on Bezalea Foods, okay? And then my onions. So I'm going to check on my meat, and my meat is ready. So I will set that one back in the oven and turn the oven off, right? And in the same saucepan that I fried all those things in, I've added a bit more oil, and I've added my chopped onions or sliced onions, okay? And I'm going to fry it. So I'll fry it till it softens, okay? And then I'll start to add the other ingredients, okay? So I'm going to add the pepper paste. So this one, the process I used in making this recipe, it entailed boiling a lot. So this is really concentrated. It's already boiled. There is not a lot of moisture in it. So once I pour it in and I fry it for like 2-3 minutes, I'm ready to add the other things. I don't need to fry it for long. Okay. So yes, because don't forget we are making Zongo recipe. And Zongo recipe, you have to boil the tomatoes until all the water. So you boil the tomatoes out of the tomatoes. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So so that is the concept. That is what should be at the back of your mind as you're making Zongo stew. Say you are going to boil and boil and boil. Okay, that is why at the beginning we have cooked our ingredients already, and so that boiling bit, we have skipped it. Okay, so I've added my blended vegetables. Okay, and then I'm washing my blender jug and adding it because it's all got some of the ingredients in there stuck in there. Okay, so I'm going to be stirring it. I'll cover it now for it to cook. Okay, so as it cooks, what I would suggest you do is anytime you want to go in to stir, right, turn off your flame. Okay, turn it off and let the simmering come down a little bit. Okay, and then you can stir it nicely because the splatter is unbelievable. It splatters really, 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 really just well. It does well in its job. Okay, so make sure that that bit you don't burn yourself, because when it gets onto your skin, trust me, it will burn pan. Okay, so yeah, that's what I kept doing. So I kept going in and stirring, and what I would do from time to time is like the cover, it also got some of the stew, so I scrape it all off or I wash it all off, right? So yeah, so as usual, Zongo queen, my Zongo instincts always kick in when I'm making these stews. So I added some more water, okay, about 1 jug, okay. So my spices, the one I showed you before, I'm adding some stew to it and I'm going to stir it. So I've added some salt to taste as well if you saw some white substance in the bowl, okay. So I'm going to stir it. So the reason I do this so that it doesn't form lumps in my stew, because sometimes when you just pour it in, it can, not everything will dissolve, and as you eat in your rice, papa bibo a big lump of spice, yeah. So I mix it in a bowl with some of the stew. I don't use water because just you're going to wait till that water also evaporates. Just a bit. Okay. So yeah, that is it. And then I give it a stir. Okay, I'll allow it to cook. As I mentioned before, the end goal is Zongo stew, and the color shouldn't be like this. Okay, so now I'm adding my meat. Okay, so it's meat time, and the reason I'm adding the meat now, the stew is not ready, but I'm adding the meat now so that the meat will also cook. Okay, as my stew is getting to its last destination, right? Okay, so all the the namna seno medekaho, I'm adding it. The namna seno, how do you say it in English? Right? So I'm going to stand, I'm going to let it cook. If you like it this way, you can end here, but me, I always go the ultimate Zongo, so I keep stirring. Now you see the color has darkened, and that is the ultimate hallmark of Zongo stew. It has to darken. Any cocoa, a trifle stew, and stew the cocoa. So that is our stew done. Yeah, so I serve this with waakye, some plain rice, some chinkafa, okay, which I'm going to bring you the recipe. Authentic chinkafa with the omofono, with the best chai added to omofon and your phone, kama, right? So yes, I'm really, really, really hoping that this video will inspire you to try these Zongo recipes. Trust me, you will love it. It's very easy. It's not like the usual process. I always try to use other process to get to the same destination, to the same Zongo stew. So if you liked it, please like this video, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. I'm so excited to come with you with this long awaited recipe. Okay, so very, very delicious beef stew. Okay, so this is not just any beef stew. This is the original authentic Zongo beef stew, okay? The Zongo Hausa beef stew now would dear won't say yes. There's a woody we out to miss Tinahona won't hear on Sahon, just for the aroma nekeke. Very delicious, and I'm bringing you a different way of making it this time, so stay tuned. And but before we get into the video, I will ask that you like this video, subscribe and share this video. So first of all, let's go through our ingredients. Okay, so we're going to be needing tomatoes, a lot of tomatoes. I have some dry chili peppers. I have some garlic, okay, some ginger, some onions, and some red peppers and green pepper. Okay, they were just in my freezer, and I thought I had to use them, otherwise I will never use them. So it's optional, you don't have to add that. Okay, so what we are going to do is to cut our tomatoes. So we're going to quarter them, and then we add our chilies and our red and green peppers, okay, and the onions as well. Okay, then we're going to boil this. Okay, so we're going to boil it for about 20 minutes, and then we'll blend it and boil it again for a further 20 to 30 minutes, or until all the moisture in it reduces, okay, when it evaporates. Okay, so I'm now adding my onions. Okay, so yeah, we'll set it on fire, and you can add a little bit of water at this point if your saucepan, the base of your saucepan is not heavy. Okay, but then the juices from the tomatoes will release, so you wouldn't need any water. Okay, but if your tomatoes are firm, then you can add a little bit of water so that doesn't burn at the bottom. Okay, so after a while, which was about 20 minutes, it's all done. You let it cool, or you can blend it like hot like that, but I let it cool before. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to blend all of this. Okay, so what I find usually is that when I blend and there's a lot of moisture or a lot of liquid and in the blender with whatever I'm blending, then I don't get a very smooth consistency. So what I did here was to strain it using a colander. Okay, so I strain it a little bit, then what I did was the rest of the tomatoes and pepper and those things that we boiled, I will pour it all in the colander and strain it so that I can get all the juices out, right? So that when I blend it, it will give me the consistency that I so crave for. Not craving for it, just my choice of word. Well, so once I get enough of the water out, I'll just turn it all into the blender and blend it. So if it's your first time on this channel, a warm welcome to you, and please consider subscribing to this channel, because here we do fantastic things here and you would totally love it. Okay, and to my existing subscribers, thank you all so much. Okay, don't forget to like this video. Okay, like the video, because it helps so much. Okay, so I've blended it to the consistency that I so desire. Okay, I so crave the word. Yeah, and I'm going to set it on fire again. Yes, so what I'm going to let it boil. Okay, we boil and we make sure most of the water evaporates and we have a thick consistency. You can boil it for a longer period of time. Okay, if you want for it to be very thick, right? But then it doesn't really matter, because when it goes into the stew, it will thicken anyway. And when you use this method, what it means is that you don't have to cook it for hours and hours like my previous videos. Okay, so we're going to start steaming our meat, and these are the ingredients you need. I have some garlic, ginger, onions, anise seed, rosemary, and some chilies. Okay, so I've blended it, and this is how it looks like. Yeah, and this is my beef. Okay, so for the beef, you need beef with bones in it, bone in, not boneless, right? Because the bones gives a special flavor, makes it really delicious, right? So I'm adding my salt to my beef, and as I always say, make sure you season your meat at the very beginning very well, so that it is tasty in the end when you add it to the stew. Okay, don't worry, when you add it to the stew to balance it out. Okay, so I've added my marinade, and then I'm added a little bit of water by rinsing my jug, and I'm adding curry powder to it right now. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a good stir. Yeah, and we're going to steam it until it's nicely cooked. You all you know say, yeah, Ghana there, our meat we cook and we fry, and it makes it super delicious, trust me. So our meat is well done, okay? It's cooked, nicely cooked, and then it's now time for us to fry it, okay? So I'm just emptying out a bottle, a liter of oil into my wok, and I'm adding bicarbonate of soda to, to reduce the splatter for me, because when I fry meat like this, dear Charlie, the splatter don't go there. It does help. Okay, so yeah, I use vegetable oil, and this is how you have to let your meat look. Okay, you have to fry it until it's nice and brown, right? That's how we fry it in the Zongo, nice and brown, and it's kind of hard, firm, but when you put it in the stew, to soften nicely for you. Okay, so we'll keep frying, and then we move on to the rest of the recipe, putting everything together. Okay, so I have some onions, some ginger, and some garlic that I have blended nicely. Okay, so the same oil we use to fry our meat, okay, that's what we're using right here. So the three things we blended, we adding it to our oil, and we're going to fry it. I'm adding a few bay leaves, I think 2 or 3 big ones, okay, and we let it cook. You stir and you let it cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, okay, and then you add your tomato puree, right? I might say that tomato puree is not so important in this recipe, because look at even your tomato sauce, look at how red it is. It is going to make your stew darker, but I'm just adding it just for completeness sake, okay? So once you add your puree, this is the time you add your tomatoes, okay, and you're going to be boiling. It wouldn't take long for this to cook, because don't forget you've already cooked your vegetables before, but I'm adding some water, okay, so that it cooks to my satisfaction. Otherwise, I don't really taste the Zongo taste, that Hausa Waakye taste, okay. And let me just also mention here that it will be a good idea for you to add dawa in it. Dawa is actually part of this recipe, but I couldn't find mine at the time I was doing it, so I didn't include it, okay. So you keep stirring, don't forget to stir it, otherwise you burn it, okay. So here, as you can see, I'm adding my spices for my stew. I'm going to be listing, or as you've seen, it's all listed by the side there for you. Okay, so and all the quantities. I think that's the problem I have with most of my some of my viewers. Okay, so they have sort of want to know the quantities, and I find it difficult to give you quantities, because I usually make a lot of stew. Okay, so here, what I am doing is I'm getting ready to add my spices. So what I do, I turn it into a bigger bowl, and I'm adding some of the stew, and I'll add some of the stock to mix it very well, okay? Because there are lumps. Sometimes there are lumps in these spices, okay? So if you just put it in directly now, what you find is one would stew now whatever you eating, one spice can see about one block of spice. Wow, so what I do is I try to make sure it all dissolves in the stew, or in water. If you don't, you can just use water, but I like to use the stew because I don't want to cook it any further, okay? So you keep stirring it. As I said, if you don't stir it, it will burn at the bottom, trust me. So make sure you go into stir. So I'm adding my stock, then I'll add my spice. You see how easy it is to just, combine it. You pour it, and then it combines so easily. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm going to make sure I scrape everything from this bowl, okay? And then we have everything in the pots. Just a JB cry. You swing hey, you see, Ghana heading. What young wasting. Anyway, so as I was saying, if I find it difficult, but I'll try and give you quantities based on like a little pot of stew that you can use. But why this pot is really big. Camera is making it a bit small, but it's really big, right? So yeah, that is the stew like basically done. So all I'm going to let it do is to simmer for it to reduce further, and then we'll add our beef. So it has actually, and I am going to set some aside for our video, okay? So what I am pouring into the saucepan is what we're going to be needing, okay, because it was too much. The one in the black pot was too much, so I'm going to freeze that and save it for later. And I'm adding my beef to what we're going to be using, like, now. So you see why I'm unable to give quantities. But what I will do, I'm going to give the quantities anyway. Then you will do your own math. You divide it by 10, by 6, by whatever you want to, if you want to make it smaller. I know your mass. I test them mass. Yeah. So that is the stew done. Very easy. Very, very easy. So you can make that sauce ahead of time, and so that you don't, waste too much time on it. And then that you get all your ingredients, and then you are good to go. Okay, so that is our stew done. And yeah, I'll just top it up with a little bit of oil. Okay, yeah, there we go, to make it look succulent and nice, beautiful. And okay, so yeah, this is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found this recipe useful. I hope you'll be able to, replicate this, or, make some for yourself and enjoy in the comfort of your home without traveling to Nima or Mamobi, especially if you're in the diaspora. You just make it yourself and you enjoy. Thank you for coming. God bless you for supporting me all the time. I really appreciate all of you. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and you can share it to a lot of people so that they can also enjoy what you're enjoying. Okay, I served with rice on this occasion. I'm so grateful to all of you for always coming back to support me. God bless you all. Before I get into the video, please like this video, share and subscribe if you haven't. If you are new here, welcome. You are in for a ride. You will love this recipe. Okay, so consider joining this family and you will never regret it. Trust me. So for starters, we're going to start with our meat. Okay, so we're using chicken and beef at the same time, and I'm adding some salt and my B10. Okay, so this B10 actually is BB10, right? I have the recipe and it's coming to you like a bullet. Trust me. I hate to say bang, right? So what I do is when I put it in, because the spice cubes are frozen, I just let it steam for a bit before I stir it. Okay, so then the spice cubes, they melt over time, or over a short period of time, and then I go in to stir, and then I let it boil until it's ready. Okay, so as I said, Auntie Habiba, she hasn't got time. We need more time. If you know about beef stew, I chicken stew. Or you need na boom. Obana pe chicken, when you're chicken, upe beef, you get your beef. Upe kusuya man yako in chain. So now my meat is ready and I'm going to fry. And you saw me drop some white substances, bicarbonate of soda or baking soda. I do that just to reduce or avoid splatter. And trust me, it does reduce splatter. And using this granite saucepan really helps. It also reduces splatter, this granite. So if you have a granite saucepan, please consider using it for frying. So all the meat, let me say meat, is nicely fried, and I'm using the same oil for the stew, right? So I have some sliced onions. I use both brown and then red onions. Okay, you can use whatever you have. Onions are onions, they will all work. Okay, so I'm going to be frying them a little bit until it's translucent, and I'm adding just 1 tablespoon of chili powder. The reason is I'm using the same sauce I use for my Zongo beef stew. Okay, and the same recipe. So if you want to know how I made this delicious tomato sauce, I'm going to link that recipe for you to check that out. So I didn't show that because I've showed that in a previous video, so there's no need, right? So yeah, and with that recipe, I added chilies to the tomato sauce. That's why I'm adding just a little bit of chili powder to boost the hotness, the heatness, the chilliness, the spiciness, or the shishiness. And I'm also saying, just say, and shishi kakra. So yempe froya mekunim udia na obosofun debi. So yeah, we just I just stirred it, and yeah, you keep stirring it, and because we're using the tomato sauce, it's already been reduced. I've boiled it and it's already been reduced. So here we only frying it, right? And we're not going to do that for long. Yeah. So the spices I'm going to be using here, I'm using 2 tablespoons, okay, of my Zongo shito spices, and I'm adding curry powder, turmeric, nutmeg, and then cardamom powder, okay. I'm going to put the exact measurements in the description box for you, okay. I'm going to mix it, and here I have the stock from our meat, okay. So that's what I use to mix my spices, or sometimes I use the stew, right? So this is to avoid lumps, because sometimes the spices, the powdered spices or ground spices, they do have some lumps. So I've been cooking. I don't time my cooking, trust me. I don't. What I do, because if I give you the time and you try it, maybe your heat is not the same, okay. So it may not cook, or it will overcook. So what I do is I add some water to my stew, okay, like a jug of water, like 1 liter, okay. It boils until it reduces. I do it twice, because this tomato, because I'm using tomato sauce, so I just did it twice. If I'm not using tomato sauce, I do it 3 or 4 times, okay. So I've added my spices, I've stirred it, and then yes, it's just, you let it like boil over. You can't say some way. You let it jump over. Manu faso kakra, and you see that the oil has resurfaced. No one who say yes, still no afa. But one thing about this stew, it will look this color. At this point, it will look this color. But you leave it a little bit, and it will change to the darker color for you. So here, this is the time I was scooping some for the jollof rice. So if you watch the jollof rice recipe, you see that I was just scooping stew. So that's the same stew I'm scooping. And the rest, I'm adding my meat. Okay, so the chicken and the beef, and then salt to taste. Okay, salt to taste, right? So I'm giving it a stir, and this stew is so delicious. I always say, I wish you can taste this, okay? So you see what I was saying about the stew changing color. It changes, like it gets a little bit darker, right? And to be fair, the jollof really didn't need any stew because it was so rich, but just for completeness sake, okay? To finish Auntie Habiba's recipe, no, and that, yeah, the stew was delicious, right? And I hope you give this stew a try. It's delicious. Everybody will like it. For a party, Charlie, with them, we are small outdoor review will feel, and I say, we are idea, we are. I said, Charlie, this stew is amazing. Thank you all for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget to like the video, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.